What's up, guys? It's Mike checking in with Torquing It Real Good. How's everybody doing today? I'm out for a sweet night cruise. 40 degrees out, actually pretty comfortable. Kind of a weird day for weather. It was 25 degrees today, earlier in the day, and has slowly cooked up to 40 from around 12 o'clock up till 6. Here we are at 7 and a full 40 degrees, and then it's going to get cold tonight and be 30 tomorrow. So I don't know what's up with this weather. Very odd. So anyways, on this lovely night cruise, I'd like to do my first ride and philosophy drive. So what better to talk about philosophically when you're on a motorcycle than living and dying, right? I mean, you ain't living unless you're riding a bike, and all of us who ride know that we contemplate the fears of death. You know, anytime you do any kind of extreme sport or activity like motorcycling, you always got that going on in the back of your mind. So what do I really want to get going on with this? I guess let's start with living, right? What's the point of living? Honestly, you know, it's a very subjective subject. You know, it's kind of hard to really pin that down, but I really think the point of living is just to experience. It is just to be alive and experience living. I don't think there's any profound, you know, divine reason for any of it, except for the most basic of basics. Just live, right? Don't get so tied up on what you should or shouldn't do, and sometimes you just gotta surf the wave, right? You're gonna have ups, you're gonna have downs, you're gonna have wipeouts, you're gonna have gnarly carves. You know, you just gotta take it all in and appreciate the moment when you can. You know, I think a big mistake that a lot of people make, a big mistake that I've made, you know, almost my entire life up until recently, was obsessing over the past, dude. Obsessing over all the mistakes, all the regrets, and obsessing over the future. Like, oh, if I could just get here, I'll be happy. If I can just do this, I'll be okay. You know, the reality of that is that's a bunch of bullshit. That's a bunch of bullshit. And if you live your life like that, I don't give a shit what you pull out of your ass. You're gonna ultimately end up miserable. You know, it's like, okay, let's say you win the lottery. You get $100 million. You'll be happy and high on life for a few months, but eventually it'll get old. And not only will you get used to it, it'll get old, but you will have worn out all the activities that are fun, and they will no longer be fun anymore. It's like part of the joy in life is suffering. You have to suffer to be happy. As weird and ironic as that sounds, it's the truth. There's an underlying balance in life. There always has been, there always will be. So if there's something that you really want, you have to work hard to achieve it. If somebody just gives it to you and hands it to you, you're not going to appreciate it. It's only going to give you a few moments of joy before you go right back to whatever shit rut you're in before. That's just the way it is. And those negatives, along with the positives and everything in between, it's all a part of the formula. It's all a part of the formula that makes you who you are, and it makes your life what it is. And that's what matters. So first of all, if you're gonna have to suffer, and you know you have to suffer, decide how you want to suffer. And that, you know what I mean? Like, let me give you an example. You eat a bunch of shitty food, all right? You feel good, but then your health goes down the hole. You lose like a decade or more of your life. You die young. The years at the end, you feel like shit. And you have all kinds of just like mood swings and shit like that if you're just cranking down carbs and processed food at McDonald's every day. You see what I'm saying? So the penalty for enjoying that tasty food is your health, and quite honestly, feeling mentally like shit and physically like shit. Now, let's do a different example. You go to the gym. You go to the gym every day. You hate being there, but you bust your ass. You get there, you bust your ass. You're fucking miserable when you're there, but then when you're done, you have this nice, steady release of endorphins the rest of the day, and you feel good. You're in a good mood. You're now mentally stable and healthy and happy. And instead of shorting your life by a decade or more, you're extending it a decade or more, and you're feeling good instead of murky through it. You see what I'm saying? So instead of focusing on how you're going to feel good, focus on how you're going to be miserable. So you're not dished out these horrific fucking results that just sideswipe you and really kind of ruin the quality of your life overall. I don't know. I think it's a hard pill to swallow, but that's a hard reality that people need to accept. So just set your day up where the negatives are negatives that are worth it. They're things that you can take pride and joy that you did, and they pay off tremendously later on. And they pay off in a way that's not like a high spike, right? It's not like fucking doing some drug and you get this real high fucking high for a little while and you dump. Have the results be something that's a smooth, steady, all day lasting kind of like a slow burn goodness all day. That's the way you should live your life. And be in the moment. Like definitely learn from your past and become a smarter and wiser person. And definitely look to the future. Be excited about things you want to obtain and set goals and all that. But be in the moment, because the moment is all that's real. It's all that you have. It's all that you're ever gonna have. So appreciate that, and then have a good perspective on it. Like, no matter what you're going through, good or bad, try to keep yourself, grounded in reality, and have an intellectual perception and read on the way things are. Things are never as bad as they seem, and they're never as good as they seem. And if you can just kind of accept those points and just kind of guide your life properly, and it doesn't matter how rich you are or how big your house is, you're gonna find happiness. You're gonna find good people to be surrounded with, because if you're putting out that kind of energy, that's the kind of energy you're gonna seek. And people who don't have that energy, they're gonna deter you away, because you're gonna exceed them for what they are, and you're gonna understand that that's not what you want to be. And the people that you surround yourself with it's kind of the way that you end up acclimating to being. You kind of pick up on their traits, and yeah, they will pick up on your traits a little bit, but if you're 1 out of 10, they're only going to get a 10% benefit from you, and you're going to get slammed to 90% negativity from them as a group. So I think that's one of the large keys of being happy in life. There's obviously a lot of points I'm missing, and a lot of things I haven't learned yet, and all kinds of stuff, but I think what I just stated is, invaluable to learn. So anyways, yeah. Now, let's move on to death, right? It scares the shit out of all of us. And here are my thoughts on it. Typically, you have people on a spectrum, right? You got people who are all about religion and, I'm going to go to heaven, or blah, 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 this and that, And then you got people on the other end who are just like, there's nothing. When it's over, it's over. You die, and it's just an empty void of nothingness, and it's over forever. I don't think either of those are really the proper way to look at it. The way I think of it is you don't know what's going to happen. And what I think the worst case scenario is if most truths in life are hidden in plain sight. You could figure out pretty much any kind of fucking mystery or puzzle you want if you've been alive long enough, you're experienced enough, and you just open your fucking eyes and look around. Like, there's that saying that the universe is turtles built on turtles. Yeah, dude, that's the way it is. except it's not turtles, it's consciousness. Everything in the universe is consciousness. That's all there is. There's only two things that exist: nothing and conscience. That's it. And I would argue that what conscious is it's God. That's what God is. It is the only thing that exists in the entire universe. It is the basic building blocks and the most complex building blocks and everything in between that is in the universe. And that's where I think, like, with the Catholic and Christian religion, you hear like Christ was the Son of God. I think what that implies is that every living thing is the Son of God. It is God. We all and everything that is God. So if you look at it like that, it's kind of like all the neurons in your brain, if they could have a train of thought, but they can't communicate with each other, but yet they're all interlinked as one unit that formulates one single thought that you are having currently right now. Like, that's kind of how it is in a way, right? So like, if you die, you're not really dying, dude, because everything that's alive is you. It's all living. You just can't directly communicate with those aspects of yourself in the state that you're in. So you'll always be living some way and somehow, right? And then another way to look at it on top of that is that if you're a fan of string theory, which I am a fan of string theory, you know, the multi-dimensional theory, the way I see it, so the third dimension is kind of like one moment at a time, right? So like, if you could somehow divide time into the smallest increments possible, which I don't really think you is. I think everything's kind of continuous. I think the wave is the reality. I don't think the particle is real. I think the particle is kind of like an illusion. It's like a concentration of the wave that just gets picked up by whatever sensory tool is sensing it, whether that's your eyeballs or a machine. It senses, you know, like a concentration of wave patterns and energy, which kind of makes the illusion of a particle. But I think the truest form of reality is a continuous wave of all things are connected and flowing together as one, kind of like a chain link in a sense, right? So anyways, so the third dimension is one increment of time, and the fourth dimension is time. So fourth dimension would be like your whole life, right? Not just third dimension would be one point of your life. I think the fifth dimension, the next dimension, if you're going to talk about dimensions in that kind of aspect, because, you know, the word dimension is kind of loosely used, right? It's kind of an umbrella term. But if you're going to look at dimensions in that kind of reality, what I think the next form of dimension is like string theory, where like they say that every possible possibility simultaneously exists at once. So there's a reality where I'm doing the exact same thing, except for one hair follicle of mine is a slightly different color, right? But everything else is exactly the same my whole life. And then there's a reality where I'm like the king of the world. I'm the king of the galaxy. There's a reality where I was born into a slavitude, you know, in a slavitude system, and I'm a slave at the moment. You know, there's everything from the worst to the best to everything in between. They're all existing. They're all just different, you know, but they're all me. They're all me in infinite different realities. All of those combined would be the fifth dimension of what you are. So even if you crap out right now in this reality, there's still infinite other realities where you're still alive doing other shit. Some of the things are very similar, some are very different. So in that aspect, you're not dead either. You know, and that also means that you are existing in different time periods too. So even if all those versions of you that were born at the same time have now done their time and passed, you know, not assuming that one of them is an immortal, which it would be, because that's one of the possibilities. But regardless, you're existing in the past, present, and future in all different realities also, not just different forms, different times as well. So you never die in that form as well. And now another reality. Now I think this is the absolute worst case scenario. This is the absolute worst case scenario. Life is like a record, like an ongoing, repeating record. As soon as you die, you are born again. As soon as you clock out, the next thing that happens, at least in your perception, is you're being conceived. You're being made and born again. You know, and maybe there's not a gap in time, and maybe there is. And if there is a gap in time, right, let's say you have to wait, like I'm telling you, the universe whatever it's doing, it's a cycle. It's a cycle, and it's infinite cycles. Even if the next cycle is different than this one, eventually so many cycles will happen that this cycle will start again. And when that happens, eventually you will be born again, exactly the same way as you have today, and you will live this life again, and then that will keep happening over and over forever. You will never truly die. And even if there's like, you know, just an insane, unimaginable amount of time in between your death and your rebirth, you're not there to perceive it. So if you can't perceive it, it's instant as far as your perception goes. It happens in a blink of an eye. So whether there's a wait or not, you will not perceive it or not notice it. It's kind of like if you ever go to bed and you're just really, really tired, like, and you don't dream that night, and you zonk out, and you wake up and it felt like a second had passed and it was like 6 hours. It's kind of like that, you know. And I'm telling you, that is the worst case scenario. Hold on, my visor's fogging up. There we go. Alright, fog's gone. So yeah, there's nothing to be afraid of. Now, obviously, there's different qualities of life that you're kind of trapped in forever. And the better the quality, the better that last scenario is. But like I said, there's other infinite versions of you anyways. So it all works out. There is a balance. We all get a little bit of everything forever. And you know, with that being said, I hope that brought some peace and enlightenment to your life, and I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for listening, guys. See you next time. Hey guys, there's just a couple things I forgot to mention in that rant of mine. I would just like to say, like, you know, there's a chance that there's some kind of tangible, formulated, you know, physical manifestation of a soul that we all have. You know, and perhaps there's a heaven, right? I don't know. Maybe there's something nice at the end like that. And another thing is, perhaps reincarnation is a very real thing. And maybe we just get to experience a whole bunch of lives, infinite lives, perhaps. You know, not just as humans, but, you know, maybe even higher life forms, like what you would imagine an alien would be like, or what we might evolve into, or perhaps lower life forms like an animal, or even a bug, right? And I think that's encouraging, because I do believe that the point of life is experiencing, just to experience life in general, or living. And if you get all those other lives to experience, I think that just adds so much value and substance and fruit to just existing. So yeah, and another thing is, if that is the case, then, you know, if you combine that with the fact that perhaps there is a universal consciousness that we all share, perhaps we are all just one source of life sharing experiences, it makes you have a little perspective on how you treat other people and other life forms. And, you know it's not so easy when to just like let go of shitty people being shitty, right? Or even just people who are not shitty that you just don't blend with, you know. Trust me, there's lots of times where people piss me the fuck off, dude. I just want to smack the shit out of them. Occasionally, I just want to throw a left hook and knock them out. You know, I get it. Trust me, I get it. But if after the moment's over and you start to cool off, if you can kind of look back on it with, you know, a high sense of maturity, and try to check your ego and your own perspective, put yourself in their shoes, you know, maybe see things a little bit differently, and try to forgive them and try to forgive yourself. You know, I think it will help you to if at the very least, help you feel better about who you are as a person, and sleep at more ease and better at night, you know. And I think that's worth it, 100%. You know, and this doesn't just go towards other humans. Like, don't treat animals like shit for no reason. You know, like, it's, if you are indeed a higher intellectual, evolved being than a dog per se, it doesn't mean that you're better than them. It means that you have a higher responsibility to look after them, you know. And, like, you know, I get it, survival is the name of the game, and a lot of times that can overtake our reality, and But the thing is, there's a balance to reality. If you look anywhere in nature, things don't just typically recklessly kill, except for fucking house cats. I mean, those things are pretty fucking... I don't know what to say about house cats. But most things do not kill recklessly. They kill because they need to survive. Or whatever they're doing, if it's a negative thing, they're doing it as a state of survival and because it's a necessity of their existence. You know, it's necessary for them to continue on to wake up tomorrow. You know, so like, I don't know. Unless you have some sick, perverse addiction to treating other people or other things like shit, I don't see the need to you know, go home and kick your dog. Like, if you have a pet that's annoying you, try to have some sympathy and understanding of that animal. Or even if there's a bug, like, dude, if there's a bug, you don't need to freak the fuck out and grab a shoe and start slamming it. Figure out why that bug is in your house. Same thing with mice. Why are these mice in your house? If your house is a shithole, clean it. You know, clean it. Whatever's attracting them, clean it. And it's like, if you put down poison for a mouse, guess what? It no longer is guarding the territory of that house, so another mouse is coming in next. And now you have a rotting carcass sticking up your basement or whatever. And it's like, if it's wintertime, guess what, dude? Those mice are gonna get in no matter what. You're not stopping them. And dying by poison is the absolute fucking shittiest way to die. You know? Like, it pretty much is. You're just being, like, internally melted and tortured till you die. I don't know. Anyways, that's my thoughts. Try to have some harmony and balance in your life, and, you know, a little bit of love and perspective towards other things that are living. We're all sharing this universe together. And that's all I gotta really say. So thanks for listening to me ranting on. I hope you don't think it was complete bullshit and got a little bit of value out of it. And I look forward to the next time I see you guys. Have a good night or day. Bye.